Alright, we're back. So we've almost got a complete guitar now. The last thing we're doing now is going to be stringing it and tuning it and setting it up to its intonation to make sure that it's right. I had to do a very minor adjustment to the bridge. Obviously now on here the bridge is springing back, like a little bit of pressure on it. I've tensioned it up to the point that I think I'm going to be right with it. But the bridge was getting caught inside. You had a little bit of area that you could undo the 6 screws and slowly in there on this side here, she was just touching the timber, like just rubbing. So I was able to just slide her back, undo the 6 screws and just get a screwdriver and just drift it a tiny bit, because I felt when I was using the trem bar, she felt like she was just getting caught, like just dragging on the timber. So now when I let go of it, she springs back perfect. So you can hear it. You probably can see that, but yeah, you can see the bridge is now springing back, so it's good. So it was the only thing I had to do. I did that off camera, just while I was trying to work out. I can just feel it, I can almost hear it trying to drag. So it was only probably half a mil, maybe a mil I got just to drift her away, so it's perfect. So now we're going to be stringing it. Obviously I'm using the strings that came with the kit, even though everyone will be shunning out there in YouTube land saying, oh, you can't use those strings. I'm not going to know any difference. So I've got decent strings on the acoustics. I've bought some Devlins for that, but I will eventually order some decent strings and put them on. I've put on all the strap buttons, so they're all on as well now. So obviously the bottom strap button is on. The one that's on the horn, she's now on, so they all look good. So obviously the neck plate is on. Everything is complete now. As for a body of a guitar, the only thing I haven't done is soldered that the earth for the spring claw. So I will do that. I'll do it off camera because it's just going to be just literally heat up a soldering iron, get the wire on there, a little bit of flux, drop a little bit of solder on it, make sure it's a good joint, not a cold joint, so it's nice and shiny. They're nice and shiny. I do have an electronics background from my IT days when I was out there with Cisco and obviously Microsoft. So yeah, with the electronic side of it, I can fix things and get things going if they're not working properly. So, but always with soldering, keep the soldering iron there nice and hot, leave it on there, drop your solder on, don't move anything, keep the wire there, take your soldering away or iron away and let it go. You'll see the solder go from a dull silver till a very shiny chrome looking colour. You know then the solder's gone off right. You can use some cleaners on them, drop a little bit of a thing on top of the solder if you don't ever want that solder to rust. But if you're using good flux and rosin type of solder, you will get a very good soldering joint. Do it first right the first time, and you don't have to come back to it and revisit in 6 months time and all of a sudden you're hearing crackling because you've got a bad soldering joint. The electronics on the back of the pick guard, I'm relying on them. Obviously I've looked at them, they look good. You know, time will tell, as they say. So we're going to run the bottom E, so we're going to run the fat bass E first. And yeah, there's a lot of techniques on how to run your strings. I mean, the one that I've watched and I like is running your string through, bringing it through your tuners. I've got all my tuners facing virtually in a line because I've got obviously 6 tuners all on one side. I'm going to be running them all through, pulling them back probably 2 frets to give it some slack, and then all you have to do is wind. I've got a winder here as well, and get the string to go over the top of itself, and then once I start putting tension, I will hold the string down because I want the string to wind below itself so that it'll virtually tension it, it'll tighten against itself, so there'll be tension on the string, and then hopefully it'll stay in tune. That is the goal. And when it's the first time I'm doing an electric kit versus an acoustic, because you've got obviously tuners on either side of your headboard. Okay. All depends on how they wrap these things. They've probably been in here a long time wrapped like this, so they'll be a little bit strange getting them out for the first time. They're not labelled, so I have no idea what's what, but usually the thickest is your as I know, is your bottom E, your top E, like your bass E, your top string, or string 6. Normally when you're buying strings in packets, they'll come out and they're numbered or labelled. The thin ones are really, really thin. Here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. The goal here is not to damage the strings before I even get started. Seems like this one seems like string 1, which is really, really thin. There we go. Patience is a virtue, as they say. Okay. Just making sure that is my thickest string. It does feel like it. Probably not actually, I reckon it's this one here. Eventually we'll get to them. The hardest point is I don't know where the actual end is because it must be wrapped in there somewhere. This one does feel like the low E. Yep. That's what we want. That's the one. You can usually see by the gauge. That's the one. Alright, so we now have, sorry for wasting your time. We now have number 6. Definitely. I'll just remove this tremolo bar. One less thing to get in the way. That's the one. You want to make sure when you get these in that they pull right up nice and hard. Here we go. And the spacing was perfect when I checked it this morning, so absolutely perfect. So we're getting this through the top one. Put a little bit of tension on it. Now we're going to pull back 2 frets. That's the slack I want so that I get those turns. Which is probably to there. I'm just going to bend her a little bit. That'll get the tension into it. We'll grab the winder until that string comes up on top of itself, which it's just done. Whoop, just tried to fly away. That's what we want. Now what I'm doing is I'm keeping tension on the string because I want the string, that's better. I want the string to go low and wind below itself. So generally what you do is the string that's gone up, face her up, so she's not getting pulled underneath the string. And start winding it and keeping the tension so she stays down. And then I'll cut them as I go. I also want to make sure, oh, here she goes, she's just tensioned up there, that's good. Keep her in the nut. So she's now on with a little bit of tension. Now I am going to stretch her a little bit. All the information that I read always tells you to give your strings a little bit of a pull. Obviously on the thinner ones you've got to be careful because you can cut yourself on these things, so they are wire. And give them a couple of pulls, give her a couple of stretches. And then all I'm going to do is get her up to tension. Just a little bit hard because she wants to spin under here. Okay, that's better. And she's seated right. She's seated in the nut right. She's not tuned yet. I'm just getting them in all very loosely, just with a little bit, just under a little bit of tension because I wanted to see what goes on with it. Alright, we'll leave her there. Obviously, now once all the strings are in, I'm going to be getting obviously a little bit of pressure against this neck as well, because the neck is perfectly straight. So before I even bolted this neck onto the body, the first thing I inspected on the first video is I inspected the neck. She is dead straight, absolutely spot on level. But obviously there's going to be string now tensioning against it, which is going to try and pull that neck a little bit. So once I'm finished and I've got all my tuning right, we will then check that, because she's probably going to have a little bit of flex in her. And obviously the Allen key that's supplied for the truss rod, from what I'm reading and what I'm studying, everything says you should have a little bit of relief. Shouldn't be perfectly flat, otherwise the strings is going to bounce off the frets. At the moment they're not. I mean, obviously the guitar's laying on its belly, but sitting up at the moment, and it's not tensioned yet, so she's nowhere near pitch. But and we can also raise these as well. So I am eventually going to take some measurements. Sounds alright. But start doing all the other strings, and then once I've got all the other strings in there, I will come back, because once the strings are taut up and they're tensioned up and I've got a rough tune, obviously the intonation is the next thing we're going to be doing, and obviously our pickup heights, just to see what levels and what volume levels we're going to have. So that'll be what we're doing next. I'll get all these strings in because it's going to be just tedious me mucking around for 40 minutes probably getting all these in and making sure they're all correct. But I'll get them all in, and you can see on there now there's about 3 winds in there, so they're all in there. That one is on there now properly, and it's been bent up above itself, so it's tensioning itself up, so the string is locking itself. I will get them all in, cut them all back, and then we'll see what we get out of it. Pleasure. Oh, here we go again. This will be sections of part 3. Obviously we've got to solder this this earth wire to the claw. The easiest way to do it, just layer up on her front. I'm just using a little bit of plastic just to stop any of the soldering spattering anywhere. Soldering iron's nice and hot. This is a Durotech soldering iron, which was a Dick Smith product, so really good soldering on these. Just re-tinning the tip. It's nice. I'm also doing the same thing to the wire. I'm just going to tin that wire just so she's got some solder on there ready. I'm using 60% tin, 40% lead. It's a 0.7 millimeter. So it's really thin for fine work. I use it a lot on the trains if I'm repairing any of the electric motors. Alright, she's nice and tinned. I'm actually going to get a little bit of solder on this plate. Perfect. Now I'm going to my left hand. This is obviously a lot easier. Another clean. All right, now the blob's on there. Nice. Love that smell. I'm just turning her off. Yeah, good solder. This was all, yeah, I've got this solder lying around for years, so I use it. I'm just tucking that wire underneath that coil so it's out of the way, which she is. It's a really nice soldering joint, nice and silver. You can just see her in there. She's up in there. If you want to zoom, you'll be able to see it. But she's attached. I always test them out. Just give them a little bit of a tug. Anyway, she definitely ain't coming off. So she's attached. I'll get rid of this soldering station. I'm just putting it next to the camera. She's on a tripod here, one of these Anko stands. I don't need her anymore. So we're going to put on this backing plate. That's sort of the bit I wanted to get to. I've already taken the plastic off it. I've already removed the plastic off the pick guard. You don't need to see that. Obviously just peel that away. That's so nice and clean. Okay. They all line up. Yeah, same principle again, don't screw these things to home. Just get them nice and seated. Once they get where you feel like a little bit of resistance, just get them to there, because you don't want to be cracking the plastic too. You don't want to be threading and stripping the holes. Otherwise you're going to have to fill them up with dowel, glue them in and then re-drill them. It's funny the amount of people that were watching part 2 and part 1 in the last few days, because we've only just recently sort of gone back to work in some sort of capacity, and people saying, "Oh, I watched your guitar build," and they're all there's a couple of guys at work now saying, "I'm going to buy a guitar, one of these kits, and you can put it together for me." Yeah, sure, no problems. I love it. I think one of the guys was talking about doing a Strat in the red. Played a little intonation last night when I got all the strings on. There's no buzzing. I just got to tonight try and check all the heights. And one of my other friends, Wes, texted me today on my way home and said, I took up guitar last year. I watched your YouTube. He said, I'm struggling with old man hands. I said, yeah, same thing. Trying to learn the minor and the major pentatonic scales. I struggle to go between 5 and 8 and spread my fingers out. It's like they just don't want to go anywhere. I thought it must be just me. More exercising, I think. Making sure they're all seated. That's better. Alright, they're all down. So we physically have a complete guitar, including the back guard. So she's on there. There she is there, the finished product. Strings are on it, I haven't cut them yet. Obviously I'm still in the process. I sort of semi-brought it up to tune last night. And yeah, there was a couple of strings there that were a little bit off. But yeah, I just played with the bridge. Some of them were a little bit, probably sitting a little bit high above the fretboard. And there's a little bit of relief in there, which is good. You probably hear that, there's a gap. So I think I think heights and intonation is pretty well right. As I said, I haven't touched the truss rod since I've put it together, but the neck was perfectly straight, absolutely spot on. It'd be interesting to see where she's at now. With under tension now, she looks like she's got a very minor, really minor. I'm just going to have a look at it this way. Like really minor relief. Perfect. Like you don't want it overbait, but that's perfect. There's a little bit of relief in it. I did hear a few creaks of that when I was tensioning up the strings. I could hear it. Like just bedding in. Obviously, because it was the first time it's been under tension. Obviously, the neck's all held together. So finished product. We'll see if we can get a little bit more tuning go. I'm just going to grab my tuner. I have stretched the strings as well. Just standard tuning. Just the top E, she's just floating above it. Okay, there she is. It's going to be a couple of days before. I mean, these are the strings that came with the kit. I don't know how good these strings are. It's pretty well close there. Okay, she just went green. Pretty well spot on the money on that one. If not, it needs just backing off a little bit. No, it's probably still not obviously still settling these strings. So the E sounds pretty well right. Just trying to get the A. Here we go. Spot on the money there. She's holding, it's good. Can feel a little bit of slack in the strings now compared to last night. I'm just trying to get this D. I'm just more worried about the strings just going whack. I don't know what quality they are. Alright, D's coming in now. So she did go out of tune a little bit, but she was laying face down. Probably a little bit sharp. My hearing's not the best anymore. Should run it through the amp. Pretty close. Probably just a tad. It's D lighting up green. G. All right, still holding a G there. Probably a little, she's actually a little bit high. She's on the money. So she's a little bit sharp on the 12th fret. She's pretty close there, and she's just a little bit sharp. We'll back her off a little bit, take a little bit of tension out of her, and drag her back a little bit. Just a couple of turns. Bring her back up to E, F, G. Let's bring her back up to tension. We went a little bit too hard there. It's pretty close. As I said, I'm relying on these strings too. Still sounds sharp. Oh, you had to go the other way. That's actually probably a little bit more because I'll take it back to where it was. I reckon there. As soon as you take the tension off, went to F. G's just coming up. I don't trust these strings. Just that little bit sharp. That's better. I reckon that'll get it. Alright, we're right on it there. She got it picked up pretty quick. Ooh, it's just almost holding. It's probably just a tad still sharp. Just a little bit. Alright, that's on the money. It's pretty close. Alright, let's get into the B. So she's a 10 up. This is the little ones, the little strings are the ones that I worry about because they, how much can they take? Pretty close. Alright, she was on the money there. Alright, that was pretty close. It's pretty close. The bottom, the high E seems to be holding. I reckon this is the string that'll break. Yeah, she goes. She's just coming in now. We'll get ready for it. Pop. I have stretched the strings too, just give them a good pull. Pretty close. Alright, she's on the money. basic tune done. But yeah, I'll have to leave it for a couple of days. I still reckon these strings are average, so they're going to stretch a little bit, and then I'll come back to it. It's probably, I think the high E is probably a little bit sharp. Oh no, see, she said it's settling now. Seeing the B's just dropping under a tad. They're obviously still stretching. That's a lot of money. Yeah. One guitar. Relatively tuned, obviously letting the strings settle. Yeah, next video we'll snip all the strings, plug it into the amp and then see what it sounds like. Obviously I'm not a very good player, so it'll just be basic stuff that I'm going to go through, but it'll be more just to see how this thing holds tune. Yeah, and obviously the block's being set up. You can probably just see the gap under there now. I've got it. She's just seated, so she is floating. A little bit of tension on it. It's something I'll play with down the track. But yeah, doesn't take much pressure. You can hear them. That's good. I'm actually happy with that so far as a first attempt. Enjoy so far, and yeah, we'll get to the end of it where we'll snip the strings, probably fine tune a little bit more. I'm just going to give this body a little bit more of a polish behind the scenes, just to bring her up a little bit. But yeah, ST Stratocaster for me to play on. Cheers. Oh, here we are at the final stage. Yeah, guitar's looking really good. Obviously it's had a good few days. Obviously Victoria's now at 80+% double vax, so we're out of lockdown now to some sort of extent, and going to work in a normal capacity as it feels. Obviously still keeping ourselves as safe as humanly possible. Obviously there is still a virus out there and you can still get it and still get sick, but what do? You got to move on. Yeah, so we're at the tuning stage now. I've got two tuners. I've got my external tuner, which is obviously that one, and I've got a tuner actually on the neck of the guitar, because I like to have two tuners just to make sure one tuner's not working properly. So we'll bring her up to tune. So both tuners are pretty well accurate. They're both showing she's a little bit flat. Just a little bit sharp. So just a minor adjustment, like literally a tweak. As I said, I don't trust these strings. Tad sharp. I want to say a little bit. Depends on how accurate these tuners are. The A is perfect. Sharp just a little bit flat. As I said, I'm relying on these strings out of the box. I've got some new strings on order. They should be here in about a week. That's a guitar strap that I need. Funny one. Well, they've both gone green there now. That's good. So she's a little bit sharp. Not by much. The tuners seem to be holding up. When you hear them creaking a little bit here and there when I first was getting up to tension. Just a tiny bit sharp. That's better. It's always the A string, I feel. She's just going to snap. It's close. Green lights, good. Yeah, she sounds. We know we got power. So the neck pickup. I've already adjusted the heights, roughly about 2 and a bit mil of gap for my pickup heights. Nice. Sounds alright. Just got to learn to play it properly. Volume. The volume's working. I don't think this amp's too good. Keep them all in the middle. That was a low to mid, low mid, and then there's a low. You can just hear that better halfway. Samick BA15, 15 watt, but it's just for practice. That's one of the tones. It sounds right. There's actually not much interference either. I mean, the amp isn't the best amp. There it is, showing she's in tune. See how long it holds tune for. But yeah, effectively that's the kit from start to finish. This is part 3. Yeah, finished guitar. Just got to keep practicing, get better at it. All good. Keep safe.